Good afternoon. I'm Dan Weddle, the President and CEO of ProTech Services Group. For those of you not familiar with us, we are an IT business services company headquartered in Memphis, and we are focused on helping businesses leverage technology to improve profitability and create growth while emphasizing security. The Greater Memphis Chamber approached us about this topic today, and we appreciate the opportunity to assist businesses working to navigate the current situation. We believe in the work that the Chamber does, and we are proud to serve as their technology partner. Several members from my team will present our recommended best practices for working remotely. You'll learn about the systems you need to have in place, valuable tools, and security considerations to help your business navigate the current COVID-19 crisis. We do have the Q&A open throughout this webinar. We will work to answer all your questions at the end of the presentation. If we do not get to your question, or those of you have additional questions after the webinar, feel free to reach out to our team or email us at protechinfo@psgi.net. That's protechinfo@psgi.net. Now I'd like to turn things over to Chris Bradley, our CIO and Executive Vice President of Managed and Cloud Services.
Thanks, Dan. So as we're going through this uncharted global crisis, there's a lot of things that are unknown, and while we're all taking our personnel's health first and foremost and making sure that they're protected, ensuring business continuity is also very, very critical. So there's several aspects that we're going to look at today. Some of it is ensuring all your employees are well informed and practicing all safety measures, maintaining clear and constant communication with both your users and end clients, enabling your employees to work from home successfully, and then of course leveraging cloud and mobility resources to help them do that. One of the initial aspects of beginning to work from a remote perspective is identifying your critical business systems. In order to provide your users with the ability to work remotely, one of the first things you have to do is clearly understand which systems are critical and how they're accessed. So today we're going to take a look at three different aspects of those. The communications, these are going to be things like email, telephony, messaging, your customer-facing operations, things like order entry, your website, possibly order fulfillment, and then of course internal business operations, which will include aspects like AR, accounts payable, HR systems. So one of the first things after you've identified the systems that are critical to your business is finding out where they actually reside. Some systems are already hosted in the cloud and called software as a service or SaaS. These can be things like Office 365 or QuickBooks Online. Some may be hosted in a commercial data center or a co-location facility. Perhaps you have servers that are already located at one of the local providers. They could be hosted in the public cloud like AWS or Azure. Or it's possible, and oftentimes is the case with, especially in the SMB, they might be hosted at your office or your current location. So once we understand where they're located, we need to figure out how users are going to be able to access those. The software as a service is generally web-based and accessible from anywhere that has internet access. Usually it's a web browser, but a special client or mobile app may be provided as part of the service. Some of your systems may require VPN connectivity or virtual private network connectivity. Oftentimes, services that are hosted locally in your office or services that are hosted in a co-location facility are going to require VPN connectivity to access them. Finally, fat client systems, which generally tends to be older and more legacy systems, they typically only work well when the client application is on the same network as the server. And for those, we have to look at those a little bit differently. So in performing remote network and the connectivity checklist, there's a few things that you should remember. Number one, it sounds kind of common sense, but ensure your users have a device that they can use for remote work. Make sure that it's at least powerful enough to perform the services that they need to perform successfully. Check that your users have internet access at their remote location, along with enough bandwidth in order to support their job functions. If necessary, if you have colo or you have local access that you need to a local area network, set up any virtual private network connections. In the case where you have fat client apps, sometimes something like TeamViewer or Remote Desktop may be necessary to establish in order to successfully utilize those applications. And always keep in mind, you may have to use multiple access methods depending on the different applications that you use. Can't encourage you enough, make sure as you go through these steps to document your remote work process, understanding what those applications are, understanding where they reside, and understanding what's going to be necessary in order to access those. And then finally, test your users' ability to work remotely. One of the best things you can do is once you figure these things out and how they work, send your users home with a laptop or ask them to get on from home and make sure that everything works the way it's expected to. As part of that, I'm going to introduce Chris Yancey, a business technology consultant, to talk a little bit about how people are using Office 365 to handle remote work. So here's Chris.
Thanks a lot, Chris. So Office 365 can really help reduce the impact that you guys are going to feel from the effects of COVID-19. The fact that you're no longer in the building, but you're working remotely from home or another location, a lot of that can cause a lot of business slowdown. But using a tool like Office 365, some of those applications can really, really help reduce that impact that you're going to feel. So Office 365 encompasses a lot of different applications. There is Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, which you all I'm sure are using. There are other tools that you may not be familiar with, such as Delve, Yammer, OneNote. But I want to focus on three particular tools within or applications within the Office 365 suite that will really, really help you be more productive as you're working remotely. And those three tools are going to be SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. First of all, with SharePoint, SharePoint is an internal platform some of you may be utilizing. A lot of corporations use this to develop an internal website or an intranet. Other people use this to develop workflows. A lot of people keep up with lists and libraries with SharePoint. But what I want to really focus on is the document library aspect of SharePoint. A lot of times we've got files and folders that normally reside on our server or on our laptop. We want to be able to use those in a group setting and collaborate with a lot of those documents. But since we're working away from the office, where do we want to store those files and folders? How do we get access or give access to those files and folders to multiple users and they're not in the same building? So SharePoint would be the solution that you would use for that. You could upload and access those files in the document library. You have the ability to share out documents with different people. I also have the ability to co-author documents within Word or an Excel spreadsheet. You've got more than one people that can, or more than one persons that could work in those documents at the same time. So you've got the ability to collaborate even though we're not together in the same building. We can manage previous versions of documents. So if you ever need to go back, you've made revisions to a document, but you want to go back to an original version, it's no problem within SharePoint. SharePoint has the ability to keep up with all of the managed versions that you've got. We can see who made changes. We can track those changes, nail down the person, the date and time that a change was made. You've got the ability to lock out documents so that people have the ability to have read-only access to a document but can't make any changes. So all of these things can be utilized from within SharePoint. This is just a sample screenshot of what SharePoint looks like. And again, if you look on the left-hand side, we want to deal with that document library. So on the right-hand side, you can see we've got different folders that the group has access to. Underneath that, we've got several files that the company has access to as well. We can see when that file was accessed, who it was accessed by. And again, we've also got some version control where we've got the ability to find out when a change was made to a particular document and who made that change. I've also got the ability to create documents on the fly right there from within SharePoint if need be. So again, we can create a new document. I can co-author that document with several people. So we've got the ability to do some team collaboration while we're working remotely. OneDrive is the next application I want to talk about. It is going to be your personal cloud-based storage solution. This is where you're going to store your documents, those documents that would normally reside on your desktop or in your documents folder on your laptop. You want to upload those documents to the cloud because, again, you want to have the ability to get to those documents from a remote location, whether you're working in the office or you're working from your home office in your apartment or at your house. You want to have secure, reliable access to all of your files. The same way that you do in SharePoint, I've got the ability to upload files into OneDrive. I can create brand new documents from within OneDrive as well. We can share those out and create and find that managed history, version history of those documents the same way that we can within SharePoint. This is a screenshot of what OneDrive looks like, and you may say that it looks a lot similar to the SharePoint screenshot that I just showed you. That is because the OneDrive application is based on SharePoint. It is actually a SharePoint site. The major difference that I want to reiterate to everybody between OneDrive and SharePoint is that SharePoint is made for group collaboration. This is a place that I want to store documents that more than just one person is going to be able to go into. The entire team would have access to these documents, these file folders, because we're all going in and sharing these documents and working collaboratively together. OneDrive, on the other hand, is belonging to just one sole person. It belongs to you. It is your storage space. You get a terabyte of storage space in OneDrive, so there's ample enough space. And if you do need to amp that up, that can be amped up on the admin side as well. But again, you have 1 terabyte of storage space that is your personal solution. You don't have to walk around with a flash drive. You don't have to worry about, oh, I don't have my laptop. You can have access, as long as you have web access, you have access to all of your files. Sharing out these files is not a problem. If you do need to share it with someone, it is just with the click of a button. I can copy this file or the entire folder over to SharePoint to give my team access to it, or I can just click the link and share it out to one or a group of persons, whether they are internal within my organization or external. You can do both. I have the ability to set an expiration date on the link. So if I want that link to expire after tomorrow, I've got the ability to do that. I can even block the download of that particular document. So if you just want to make something read only for a day, you've got the ability to do that right there from your personal OneDrive storage solution. So again, SharePoint meant for the group, OneDrive is going to be made just for you. And last but not least, I want to talk to you about Teams. Teams is going to be that application you're going to utilize the most if you're working remotely, especially within a group of people. This is where you all can collaborate and work together. So you all have the ability to do chat. You've got the ability to have a one-on-one private conversation with some of your employees. I've got the ability to share files out to the group. Again, if we want to co-author a document, we can do that right there from within Teams. I've got the ability to hold team meetings, whether they're audio only, or I can hold a video conference from within Teams. I've got the ability to do that on the fly and say, hey guys, let's hold a meeting in about 15, 20 minutes, or I can schedule that meeting right there from within Teams. It goes directly to everyone's Outlook calendar, the same way that you would schedule it directly from Outlook. So everything that I could possibly do or collaborate with in my team, I can do that right there from within this one application. This is what a typical Teams environment looks like. My teams are going to be located on the left-hand side. On the right, that is where I'm going to communicate or chat with my group. So I can send out pictures, I can send out emojis, I can send out graphs or diagrams. I can put text within here. I could even forward an entire email so the entire group could actually see it. With the team, you get a group email address. So if I need the team to have access to an email, I could simply forward that email to the team's email address, and it pops up right here within the chat window. In addition to this, this is where I would hold my team meetings, as well as make phone calls if I need to as well. On the next window, you'll see the Files tab over on the far left-hand side. This is where I would access my OneDrive information. So everything that I just showed you on your OneDrive screen, you have access to it directly from Teams. So again, there's no need for me to ever leave the Teams environment to get to my personal files. If I need to share out a file to the team, I have direct access to it right there on that Files tab. And again, at the top of the screen, there's another Files tab. That is going to take me directly to the Teams SharePoint site. When I create a team, every team that I create automatically has its own SharePoint site. So any files that get directly uploaded to the team are automatically saved within my SharePoint's document library. So again, easy access to all of my team's files. I don't have to go hunting through emails or digging through a document library to find anything. Everything is right there, bookmarked for me, right there at my fingertips. And I made this split screen so that you could see the Teams environment on the left-hand side, and on the right is the SharePoint document library. And as you can see, they directly mirror one another. There's no need for me to go out externally out to SharePoint. All I have to do is click the Files tab at the top. Everyone that's a member of the team has access to the same files. So Microsoft really made it easy for you to collaborate and work remotely by navigating Teams and clicking on the files that you need. Everybody has access to the same documents. So again, these three applications are going to be crucial for you during this pandemic time. SharePoint is going to allow you to have that group environment where you can list all of your files and your folders that the group needs access to. OneDrive is going to give you access to your personal files, and then Teams is going to be the environment that you all are going to communicate and actually get your work done productively in. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Amit Kanda. He is our COO, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about security.
Thanks, Chris. Greatly appreciate it. You know, as you guys heard my coworkers talk about the various tools and the importance of what we need to be doing in this unforeseen situation that we are all in, while we are enabling all of our employees and coworkers to have the ability to be able to work remotely or from wherever they possibly can, there are certain other things that as businesses we should be very aware of. And security is top of mind for everybody. And you know, security is the major concern for businesses, with not only the ability to secure their data, but also to make sure that their employees do not fall victim to any of the email campaigns or the phishing attacks that are going to be out there. So it's very important that security is top of mind for every organization while we implement this remote work from home policies. And while we are talking about security, you know, security is kind of broken down into a couple of different areas. We have to ensure that security on the back end during the transmission of the data and at the endpoint is taken into consideration. We have to make sure that the data is secure at all points in time. So some of the key elements that you have to take into consideration is, please ensure that all your systems are properly patched and updated. From our experience, what we have seen that some of the main reasons for the breaches are the systems not being updated and patched properly. Please ensure that the antivirus is installed and is working on all your backend infrastructure and the endpoints. Implement and leverage two-factor authentication. When you are enabling work from home capabilities, this is one of the most robust implementations that you can do, which will prevent any breach from occurring. Put intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems in place. Now, these are systems that may not be able to be implemented right away, but this is something that all businesses should take into consideration. Last but not least, please ensure that while you are looking at your various security implementations, that you take into consideration the compliance and regulatory requirements that each one of your businesses has to follow, which is very important. In addition to having the security, we have to ensure that there is a proper backup and disaster recovery solution in place. Having a reliable backup and disaster recovery solution in place is critical to preventing data loss in an event of a disaster. While talking about backup and disaster recovery, there are some key considerations. The first and foremost is, are all of your infrastructure and endpoint systems backed up? Where are those backups stored? Are they stored locally, or are they stored remotely in an offsite location at a data center or in the cloud? How often are the backups performed? Have you performed a test restore recently? We have seen so many times where the data backup has been going on for a long period of time and no test restores have been performed. And in case when something is needed, organizations find out that the data is not reliable or is not up to date. Are your DR systems secure? Again, we have seen that a lot of times organizations are so focused on securing their production environment that there is an oversight on protecting their DR systems. So please ensure that your DR systems are secure. How quickly can access be established to those DR systems in case you have to declare a disaster and move to your DR systems, whether they are in a data center or in a cloud environment? How quickly will you be able to establish access to those systems? How can you access and perform those restores from those systems is very critical as well. And just like previously in relation to security, you have to always keep into consideration what are the regulatory and compliance requirements that have to be addressed from business to business, because they vary and are so broad that you are the only ones who can determine what compliance and regulatory requirements your business has to follow. So with that in mind, I am going to hand it over back to our President and CEO, Dan Weddle, for closing comments.
Thank you, Amit. So we hope everyone on this webinar felt that we provided you with valuable information that your business can use so that you can quickly mobilize your employees to work remotely. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me, my team, or you can email us at protechinfo@psgi.net. That's protechinfo@psgi.net. And again, please send us any questions that you have, and we will be providing everyone that attended this webinar with a copy of the slides. If you have questions now, please go ahead and put them in the chat, and we can answer those live. If not, you can put them in and we can respond to you, or you can send us the email at protechinfo@psgi.net.